You ever get that feeling you're in a conversation, but you're missing the real conversation? Well, today we are going to unlock that silent language of human interaction. We're going to build a toolkit to help you understand what people are really trying to say, even when they're not saying a word. So let's dive in. Think about it. Have you ever given a big presentation and you just watch as people slowly kind of zone out? Or maybe you've been on a date that felt super confusing, just full of mixed signals? Yeah. Those are the moments, right, where the words just aren't telling the whole story, and you're left scratching your head wondering what went wrong.
And here's the thing. A huge chunk of our communication isn't verbal at all. The real problem kicks in when someone's words are saying one thing, but their body is practically screaming something else entirely. That right there, that's the birthplace of confusion and misunderstanding. So let's start decoding it. Okay, first up, we're diving into the stuff you can actually see, the most visible external cues. You can think of this as learning the basic alphabet of nonverbal communication, and we're going to start with the very space that separates us.
The first concept we need to get is something called proxemics. It's basically the study of that invisible bubble of personal space we all carry around. You know, how close someone is willing to stand next to you can reveal pretty much everything you need to know about your relationship without a single word being spoken.
So, this breaks down into 4 really distinct zones. You've got the intimate zone, that's for our absolute closest connections. Then there's the personal zone for family and good friends. The social zone is for colleagues and acquaintances. And finally, the public zone is for things like giving a speech. Just think about it for a second. The physical distance between two people is such a powerful, unspoken signal of their emotional distance. It's fascinating.
All right, let's get to the one everybody wants to know. Now look, there is no magic trick here, no single tell that works every time. But there are some common nonverbal signals that might indicate when someone isn't being totally honest. Let's look at a few of them. Okay, so when someone's lying, their brain is working overtime to cook up a story, right? This can actually cause a delay in their hand gestures. Their body literally can't keep up with the lie. You might also spot some involuntary fidgeting or itching, or maybe a sudden high pitch in their voice as their vocal cords tighten up from the stress. Even something as simple as sweating in the T-zone, that's the forehead, nose, and mouth area, can be a sign of nervousness. But, and this is so important to remember, these are just potential clues, okay? They're not definitive proof. Now, watching for all these external signals is super useful, but it's kind of like looking at a computer screen without knowing what software is running. So, let's move from the outside in. If body language is the vocabulary, then you can think of personality type as the operating system that runs the person.
You know, at its most basic level, understanding someone's default setting really comes down to one simple thing: energy. Are they an introvert or are they an extrovert? And let's be super clear, this has absolutely nothing to do with being shy or being outgoing. It's all about how they recharge their internal batteries. It's pretty simple when you break it down. For an introvert, social interaction is like a draining workout. They need to be alone afterward to recover their energy. But for an extrovert, being alone is what's draining, and socializing is how they plug in and recharge. Just understanding this one fundamental difference and remembering that most of us fall somewhere on a spectrum in between can totally change how you interact with people.
So, how can you spot an introvert at a party? Well, they're often the ones who leave early, not because they're not having fun, but because their social battery is just plain drained. They might disappear into a quieter corner of the room, or you might notice them sticking close to the few people they already know really well. They're not being antisocial, they're just managing their energy.
Okay, so we've looked at the external cues, the body language, and we've talked about the internal operating systems, like introversion and extroversion. But what's running in the background of it all? Now we're going to peel back that final layer and explore the universal motivations that drive pretty much all human behavior.
A psychologist named Abraham Maslow came up with this really powerful framework for this, and it's called the hierarchy of needs. The whole idea is that all of us are motivated to fulfill a series of needs, and we have to start with the most basic ones first. It's a really simple but profound idea. You can't really worry about self-esteem or personal growth if your most basic needs, like food and safety, aren't being met. So if you know someone is really struggling to pay their rent, you can suddenly understand why getting a promotion might be less about the achievement and way more about just feeling secure. Understanding where someone is on this pyramid, well, it reveals what's truly driving them.
So we've spent all this time learning how to read other people. But what about the one person we spend all of our time with?
The most powerful way to use these tools, it begins when we turn them inward, on ourselves.
Look, the whole point of reading people isn't to gain some kind of advantage or to manipulate them. It's to connect. It's to empathize on a much deeper level. And that kind of genuine understanding, it's pretty much impossible if you don't understand yourself first. Real empathy always starts with self-awareness.
This quote really just says it all, doesn't it? The journey to understanding the world around you, to reading all those stories that other people tell without using words, it has to begin with an honest look in the mirror.
So, as we wrap this up, I'm just going to leave you with this one thought. We've gone over all these tools to help read other people, but the most complex, the most fascinating book you will ever open is your own. So before you try to read anyone else's book, take a moment and ask yourself, what does your own book say?